Hey everyone, it's Heather Nichols. Are you ready to celebrate the new year? I definitely am. I made a card to celebrate with lots of sparkle and shine. My project begins with the Fireworks Stamp and Stencil Combo set. This includes a red rubber stamp that stamps the stars in the background, and then 2 stencils to create the firework bursts. I have Pixie Spray to hold my stencils in place on my project. For the sentiment on my project, I'll be using the On the Block Happy stamp, as well as the coordinating On the Block Happy shadow die. I'll be using the die to cut out a piece from the stamping mask paper. I'll also be using the On Repeat New Year stamp and the coordinating On Repeat die. For ink colors, I'll be using Sugar Cube and Oreo. I'll also be doing embossing, and so I have my VersaMark ink, my powder tool, and I'll be using silver embossing powder. I'm doing foiling today, and I'm using the shattered silver glass foil. I have my Nuvo media spatula and the Deco foil transfer gel. I'll also be using my laminator. I have the foam sticky strips for adhesive. I'm using multimedia matte and adding some wooden stars from my personal stash to my project as well. I'm starting off by stamping the happy word using the On the Block Happy stamp onto poppy seed cardstock. I'm arranging that where I want it on my project, and then I'll close the lid of the MISTI to pick that stamp up, and I'm stamping with Oreo ink. I'll be adding the background over the top of this happy word, and so I'm cutting a mask with the stamping mask paper using the On the Block Happy shadow die. I'll cut that from the paper, and then I am going to use the negative of the die cut to arrange the mask over the top of the stamped word on the cardstock. Once that mask is in place, I'm ready to add my background, and the first thing I'm doing is stamping that star background with Sugar Cube ink onto the cardstock. Because the stamp covers the entire piece of cardstock, I'm holding things in place in my MISTI with a little bit of adhesive. I'll ink up that stamp with the Sugar Cube ink and then close the lid of the MISTI to stamp the stars onto the poppy seed cardstock. Before this next step, I did let that Sugar Cube ink dry for a little bit on that background so that the ink is not wet. And now I'm treating my cardstock with the powder tool. I'll be doing this first firework layer burst with silver embossing. I'm layering the first stencil over the top. I've already sprayed it with Pixie Spray, and I'm using the etched stars in the stencil to line them up with the stamped stars on the background. I'm taking my VersaMark pad and I'm pressing that right over the top of the stencil to apply the VersaMark ink through the firework design. Once I'm finished applying the ink, I'll peel off the stencil, and then I'll sprinkle on the silver embossing powder and use my heat tool to melt the embossing powder until it is shiny. I'm taking the next stencil and I'm lining that up. I'm using the etched stars in the stencil and lining those up with the stamped background design so everything lines up perfectly. And this time I'll be applying the transfer gel through the stencil using my Nuvo media spatula. Once I've applied the transfer gel through the whole design, I'll peel off the stencil. As you can see here, the transfer gel appears white, and then you need to let this completely dry, and when it's completely dry, it will be clear. I've let my laminator heat up, and now I'm going to apply the foil. I'm using the silver shattered glass foil, and what I'm doing is laying that on top of the design pretty side up. So you want to see the pretty side of the foil. I'm putting this between a piece of printer paper to be my carrier sheet, and then I'm sending this through my laminator machine. The heat from the laminator will apply and adhere the foil to the transfer gel. Once it's done going through my laminator machine, I will take it out and I will peel off that foil to reveal that pretty sparkly firework background. To complete the Happy New Year sentiment on my project, I'm taking the On Repeat New Year stamp and I'm stamping that with Oreo ink on Sugar Cube cardstock. I'll use the coordinating On Repeat die and line up the guides so that I can cut out all 8 of these New Year words in one pass through my Sidekick machine. I'm attaching my background to a Sugar Cube card base, and then I'll attach the New Year word below the happy using a foam sticky strip. My final finishing touch is attaching some wooden stars from my personal stash, and I'm attaching those to my project with multimedia matte. All of the shimmer, shine, and sparkle on this card is way too fun and perfect for celebrating a Happy New Year. You can find the supplies to create this project at the Tailored Expressions web store at tailoredexpressions.com. Thanks so much for joining me, everybody, and I'll see you next time.